Howdy folks, this is Justro at Metcalf Mills. I've got another barn video for you today. And I'm up in the holler on the original homestead spot where my family settled here almost 200 years ago. And I can show you some remnants of what they done, but nothing as original that I know of. But what's here is real old anyhow. If you see back there behind me, there's a barn back there, and we're going to go back there and look at it, and I'm going to tell you about it. And also, right down here is another barn that we're going to go see and talk about. And right down there, on down the holler, right there, that's another one of them big old log barns that we love to look around in. And we're going to do it here soon, but today we're going to look at these other two. And this is up in the holler where I grow my Jimmy red corn. Let me go back and redo that. I had a Mama Ruth commented the other day, when I spin too fast, it don't feel good. So let's slow that down just a little bit here, because I want these videos to be pleasant. I don't want them to be spinning all around. Be easy to watch. That's what we're all about here. But this is up in the holler here, below Chestnut Mountain, where I grow my Jimmy red corn and my big tater patch. And we're gonna go check these barns out. I hope you enjoy it. Jimmy reds are looking good. Thanks to the crow tape and my 2-wire electric fence here, we got a good stand of corn coming on. And I'm real excited about it. It's the best stand of corn I've had in years, thanks to that crow tape. If you ain't seen that video, you ought to go check it out. Now this barn right here, it ain't elaborate or nothing, but it's real interesting. And the thing about this barn, it's going downhill fast. But the thing about it is, it's all notched up logs. And there's another one of these barns at that old Appalachian homestead I went to that time. There's one of these up in the holler there that we'll try to go look at sometime. But they notched this barn up with saddle notches on the corner. And then they sheeted the gable with just regular lumber. And the interesting thing about this barn is it's going down into the ground. It's rotting and it's going down into the ground. Instead of falling over, it's going down into the ground. And I'll show you here. It's went down a lot already. And it looks to me like all these logs is just pine logs. And it looks like they left some of the bark on them, which is a no-no, but they done this all them years ago, and I can't say nothing about it, so it's still here. But you can see, look at this pine bark. That's 2 different logs there. And look at that pine bark. That stuff is just settled down and mashed together. That's how much room they left between these when they notched them. Saddle notch. And look how long they are. That's probably, I'd say that's 25 feet. And to get them logs to fit that good, you can't get nothing between that. That bark settled down there, and I'm sure over time it's settled down even more. These bugs been eating on it. See all these holes. Looks like they just notched them with an axe. Chopped them saddle notches out. But you can see the damage inside of there. And it looks like up here at the top, we got a poplar log right there. And then probably another big hewed out poplar beam at the top. And then here is something we talked about on our poplar video the other day. See these little poles right here? That's what I was telling you about. They'd cut them little old poplar poles and make rafters and framing out of them. That's what they done. I'm sure them's poplar. And you can see here, this side of the barn that caught them a lot of the sun, you can see how it's weathered down a whole lot more than this side has. Because that sun and that rain will get them quicker than anything else. And it's got look like bug damage pretty equal all the way around. And I know going through here, everybody's gonna be hollering about my snake boots, but you've got to realize this is a way of life to me. I don't think no more about walking through the weeds like this than you think about walking down Fifth Avenue. Now the interesting thing here I want to show you, you see these logs right here? You see there where it's cut off? Well, you know what that means? That means there's a door right here. Now you see that's on the ground. Well, this barn, that's what I was telling you, this barn has rotted down and went straight down, just like it was in quicksand. But it held together and didn't come apart. And this door that was here, you used to be able to walk through it. You can see how much that barn has settled down. How many logs has gone into the ground here, just rotted into the ground, and this old barn just kept going down, down, down. And you see these notches right here? That was probably, I'd say that was the second run of tier poles in this barn to hang backer in, because that's what this barn was built for, a backer barn. And you see up here, here's the next row of tier poles. They laid them there between them logs. And then you got your next row of tier poles up there. So it looks like about between tier poles was 4 logs. But I always thought that's so interesting, how this barn has rotted down from the ground up. And I mean, that's usually where rot starts, but most time a building will fall over before it rots down. Or, I mean, before it just goes straight down into the ground. And I guess this barn is at least 100-year-old. It's probably way more than that, because they started building barns out of framing a while after the backer got big in here, and like in the 20s. But this corner here, the metal's gone off of it, and it's got some rain on it. And you can see how it's fell in on itself here. Them logs are rotted in two, and that upper wall fell in behind that lower wall. And this thing's went down pretty fast in the last year or two. Up there's a good example of the saddle notch, but know that I can get up there to show you. Yeah, I got a good idea. You can kind of see there, that saddle notch. I got a good idea of what I can get away with and what I can't. But it's sad to see, I mean, a piece of history like this. But the bugs has ruined it. You can see how they've eat the logs up. So, if it hadn't rotted down, it'd have probably just collapsed because of all that bug damage. And it ain't been too long ago, you could pretty easily crawl in through this little opening. But now, it ain't so easy. Let's see here. I believe old Justro can squeeze through here. Well, I'm making it, folks, but it ain't the easiest thing. Alright. I ain't like one of my cousins. I got a cousin, they say he's like a rat. If he can get his head in a hole, he can go through it. Alright. Look around inside of here. There's where that bark is so tight. Look at that. Can't even see. Well, right here, you can't even see daylight through it. How tight that bark is on itself. And you can see the framing good in here, how they use them little poplar poles to hold that gable rafter up there. And then you can see all the tier poles in here. And they'd haul their backer and hang it in here. See all them poplar pole rafters. And they didn't put no ridge board. Or you can see them rafters. They just butted up against one another. And you know, the wall back here, that, like that other wall, it got the least sun of any of them. It's pretty solid. Pretty solid. Don't look like there's as much bug damage to it either. Now you can see here, this right here would have been the hole for the first tier poles, and that ain't but a little over a foot off of the ground. So that tells you that there's been quite a few logs have went down into the earth here. Because that used to be up around chest high at least, if not head high. Keep that backer hung up there. And I guess there's a lot of you that don't know nothing about backer, but we'll give you a little tutorial on that here. See if I can find an old hand split stick. Yeah, right here's one. That's a backer stick. And they'd sharpen one end of it a little bit. And this is split out. It's split out of probably, let's see, yeah. Split out of a pine pole. And they smoothed it up a little bit, maybe with a draw knife. And one end is fairly blunt. And they'd drive that in the ground. And they had a metal spud. It looked like a steel cone. And that little cone would go down over the end of this. It's real sharp up on the top. And when they cut them backer stalks off, they'd come down on that spud with that backer stalk, and it would split that backer stalk in the middle, and it would go down on this stick. And it would hold on there because this stick was going through the backer stalk. And then they'd leave them standing in the fields a few days and let it dry down a little bit. And then they'd go haul it in. And they'd haul it into these backer barns, and they'd carry it in off a trailer, and they'd lay them backer sticks with that backer be a hanging down like that. And they'd space them out every little bit like that. And that backer would hang in the barn and cure out. And all these tier poles, this would have been slam full of backer. Every stick they could get in here, they'd put in here. Now that right there is interesting. Here's an old log. It's cut off right there. I don't know if they done that because this barn ain't built on much of a slope. I don't think they would have had another door over here, but I don't know. Ain't no way of knowing. No way of knowing. But this old barn ain't gonna stand much longer. It ain't gonna stand much longer. It's gonna go down. Now I'll see if I can get back out of here. That made a little bit more room there. I wanted to show you something over here on this other side again. I'll show you just how tall this barn was and how much it's gone. All right. Them posts in there holding the tier poles up, you see them there? That one's still sitting on its rock. This one has kicked off of its rock right there. All right, now I'm gonna show you something. Them ain't moved. Them rocks ain't went down none. They're about right where they was when this barn was built. Now come out here and I'll show you. Looky here. That's the tops of them posts we looked at right there. You see how much higher they are above that original roof line? That shows you how much this barn has went down. A whole bunch. All the backer they growed in these fields up in here. They hung it here in this barn. They put metal back here to kind of protect them logs there from the weather a little bit. Right here you can see an old homemade drag to go behind their tractor disc to smooth the ground, or either behind a horse one, I don't know which. May have been to go behind a horse to drag the ground down, smooth it up after they worked it. Well, now that's interesting. On that top poplar log there, it looks like they cut it a little short and nailed a piece on it there. See what we can figure out here. The top of it's sloped to the outside a little bit. See yonder how they sloped it out? I bet they done that to protect the end of that poplar log, because it's sloped down on the top side, see? And that'd keep the weather off of that notch joint there and keep it from rotting in that joint, because that's where all your strength would be. And I bet you they've done that. It's right up under the overhang of the roof, but I don't know no other reason they'd have done it unless they've done it to make it look right. Maybe they just done it to make it come out even with all the rest of the logs. May have been what they done. Now we can go check out that other barn down yonder. It's another, just a backer and a shed barn. It's kind of a more modern style barn, but we'll go look at it. Well, we couldn't ask for a better day to be out looking around at barns, could we? What a beautiful day up in the holler, boy. Woo. Now this barn, I'm pretty sure was built by old Harold Metcalf that lived down here on this farm. He was the last Metcalf to live there. And they've shedded this roof off here just for equipment shed to park their tractor and tools and under. They put them braces there to help strengthen them. There we go again, poplar pole rafters. Poplar poles ain't too stout, but when you use them like that for rafters and get the metal and the lath on them. They pretty strong. I mean, that's held up a lot of heavy snows, and then them braces there made it a whole lot stouter. But you can see back there on his girders across there how they've sagged from the weight. Out yonder they put a T-post under to help hold it up so it won't fall. But this old barn here, like a lot of the later backer barns, I say later in the 30s, 40s, or 50s, they just build them out sitting on rocks. And for the bottom, I usually had locust seals. And they'd set all the upright posts on a pile of rocks or on a big rock. Hold it up. Well, we got company here. Hey, sheeps. They left big gaps between the lumber on this barn. You guys care if I film this barn here? Is that a no? Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Here. I appreciate it. Thank you for being friendly. Thank you for being friendly. Yeah, I won't stay too long. Interruptions nap in here in the cool out of the hot sun. I'm just gonna look around a little. But you can see them there locust seals, how they just notched them up and laid them on them rocks. And then all the uprights sit on top of them, see? And this is what I was telling you about that other barn up there. You see how the tier poles is? They're about head high there, so they could carry that backer in here and hang it up and it'd be up off of the ground good. And this is a 4-tier barn, 5 tiers right down the middle up there in the gable. And it was common through the hallway, they'd take lumber or poles and nail to the tier poles all the way up to the rafter. Nail them off up to the rafter in the ridge up there to help hold that extra weight through this hallway where there wasn't nothing supporting. And this has been cut off. These would have stopped here. But that next row of tiers up there, you can see right there where they was, they've cut them off to make this hallway taller. See, there's the other end of them right there. So there's another row of tiers here. And what they'd do, they'd back her backer trailer back in here, and they'd hang right off of the trailer right up into the tier poles, and then there'd be somebody on the trailer carrying it and handing it. And there'd be a man on every tier pole, and the bottom man done the most of the work because he had to handle every stick. So they'd reach him one, and he'd reach it up, and then next man would reach it up till they got to the top, and then just keep a line of backer going. And the top man would hang his, and the next man, and they'd just keep a reaching up and a hanging and a going with it. And all the time moving out, walking out the tier poles, moving out, spreading the backer out so it can dry good. This had a drive-through hallway here. Looks like an old pole gate there. Had an old pole gate they could open. And this is pretty common of the way they built most of the backer barns around here. Just sitting on rocks. I tell you, these buildings and houses around, it's been there 100 and even 200 years. It's just sitting on a pile of rocks. Ain't much better way to do it. Ain't much better way to do it. The onions can go back in. I ain't gonna run onions out. Main thing, if you're building sitting on rocks, you got to go down to virgin earth where it's good and hard ground. And this big old rock here was way too big to move, so they just used it for a cornerstone. Set their pillar right on it. And this barn's got about the biggest gaps between the lumber that I ever seen in a backer barn. Big old gaps. See that board right there? That right there is what the sun will do. See them nails right there? The sun and the wind, the sun works first. And when the sun gets done, the wind takes over. And that sun, them nails, see, when that sunshine shines on them nails, they get warm and they get bigger. And it's constantly warm and cold, warm and cold. They're expanding and contracting all the time, and that makes them get loose. And they start backing out. Some more than others. But that's what causes them to keep working and coming out, and you can see them all up through yonder. See them nails? The sunshine's pulled them out. And when the sun gets working all it can, then the wind takes over, and the wind starts pulling and jerking and snapping on it. Next thing you know, you got problems. It don't matter what you do, you're gonna be struggling with the nature and the weather. That's just the way it is. I guess there's some ways you can do it, but to not have to do that. But I don't know what's busted this lumber off right here, but something's worked on it. Busted it off of there. And on the main barn, they had scantling rafters, 2x4 rafters. They didn't have poles on it. All right, sheeps. You can go back now. Go back and enjoy yourself. Sorry I interrupted you. But that's your regular, typical kind of backer barn around here. How it's built. Them sheeps is gonna get them a little snack of something to eat while they're out before they go back in the barn. I want to show you right here, later on, they got to building scaffolds to hang backer on. And the way they done it, they'd just put posters in the ground, and they'd build them a little, kind of a roof outline frame on the tops of the tall posters, and then they'd put them 3 run of board on there, 2 on one side and 1 on the other side in the middle, and offset just a little. And what they'd do is they'd direct the end of them backer sticks, if I can show you here. This ain't gonna adjust right, but they'd put the end of them backer sticks down in there. It'd be on the bottom side on this side, and when the backer stick went in there, it would bind and foul against that board on the other side. And then on the other side, it'd be that second gap up, they'd stick it in, and it would bind underneath that top board. And they'd have backer sticks hung out on both sides of that scaffold there. And then they'd take a plastic and they'd pull it up over top of them A-frames down through there to cover it, make like a roof, and let it drape down on the sides, and they'd tack that plastic off on top of them A-frames, and that's how they'd hang backer on a scaffold. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this little barn video. It wasn't as elaborate as some of them we do, but it'll show you some barns that ain't gonna be here much longer, at least one of them. Get a look at it and kind of get it halfway documented before it's gone for good. Now, the feller that lives here now, his name is Chris, and I just want to give a special holler out and thank you to Chris and Miles in Georgia for letting us come up here and check these barns out. And Chris runs a farm school here, and young children comes and learns a lot of things about out in the woods and out on the farm and just all kinds of fun stuff. Virginia helped him there for a couple years, and it's a good thing. These kids get to come out here. They may live in town and not get that experience, but thanks to him, they get it. So we really appreciate you letting us show these barns, and we're looking forward to looking in the big barn down there real soon. Folks, I hope you enjoyed today's barn video. Happy Sunday morning to you. I hope y'all have a great Sunday. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel. Tell your friends about me. Hit that notifications bell so you don't miss none of my videos coming out. I got a little something special I wanted to show you today. I got this for my mother years and years ago, and look what it's done. This is Justro at Metcalf Mills. I look forward to seeing you next time.